Michael Reynolds sat rigidly in the courtroom, his fingers clasped tightly around a manila folder containing what he believed would be irrefutable proof of his parental rights. Across the room, Jasmine Carter looked equally determined, her deep brown eyes betraying a mix of anxiety and resolve. Their 5-year battle over custody of Ethan had been more than a legal dispute. It was a deeply personal war that had torn apart families, friendships, and their own sense of identity. Michael, a successful corporate lawyer, had always been convinced that Jasmine had betrayed him, claiming he was not Ethan's biological father. Jasmine, a pediatric nurse, had vehemently defended her integrity, insisting that Michael was the child's true parent. The courtroom buzzed with tension as Judge Elizabeth Hartman entered, her stern gaze sweeping across the room. Years of family court cases had taught her that nothing was ever as simple as it seemed. "The court will now hear the results of the DNA testing," Judge Hartman announced, her voice cutting through the murmured conversations. Dr. Marcus Williams, the forensic geneticist, stepped forward. His professional demeanor masked the extraordinary discovery he was about to reveal. He carefully opened the DNA report, his fingers trembling almost imperceptibly. "After extensive testing and cross-verification," Dr. Williams began, "I can confirm that neither Mr. Reynolds nor Ms. Carter are biologically related to the child known as Ethan." A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Michael's face turned ashen. Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth, her world suddenly spinning out of control. The revelation was just the beginning of a labyrinthine mystery that would unravel multiple lives, expose hospital protocols, and challenge everything they thought they knew about their son. Investigators quickly discovered a chilling scenario. On the night of Ethan's birth, 2 sets of parents had given birth in adjacent delivery rooms. A critical moment of confusion, a split-second mix-up, and 2 families had been living with the wrong children for 5 years. As the investigation deepened, more shocking details emerged. The hospital's night shift had been understaffed. A junior nurse, overwhelmed and exhausted, had accidentally swapped the identification bands. By the time the error was discovered, both families had bonded deeply with their adopted children. Ethan, or rather the child they had been raising as Ethan, had Michael's love of mathematics and Jasmine's compassionate nature. He was a perfect blend of 2 people who were not his biological parents, yet had loved him unconditionally. The legal and emotional complexities were staggering. Who were the biological parents? Where was the other child? The questions seemed endless, each answer bringing more confusion. Michael and Jasmine, once bitter adversaries, now found themselves united by an incomprehensible shared experience. Their anger transformed into a mutual determination to understand the truth and protect the child they both loved. As news of the extraordinary case spread, it attracted national media attention. Hospitals across the country began reviewing their identification protocols. The human stories behind medical errors became a topic of intense public discussion. The final hearing would determine not just legal custody, but the very definition of parenthood. Was it genetics? Was it love? Was it the years of care, nurturing, and unconditional commitment? Judge Hartman knew this case would challenge everything in her decades-long judicial career. The decision would not just affect 2 families, but potentially set a precedent for countless similar situations. The stage was set for a resolution that would challenge everything they thought they knew about family, love, and identity. The weeks following the initial revelation became a media circus. Michael and Jasmine found themselves thrust into a spotlight neither had ever wanted, their private pain becoming a national conversation about identity, parenthood, and medical ethics. Private investigators were hired to track down the biological parents. The search was more complicated than anyone anticipated. Hospital records from that night were incomplete, with several night shift employees having since left or retired. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the hospital's chief of obstetrics, was placed on administrative leave. Her career hung in the balance as an internal investigation scrutinized every protocol and procedure. The mix-up exposed deep-seated issues in hospital management, overworked staff, inadequate identification systems, and a culture of silence that had allowed such a catastrophic error to occur. Ethan, the child at the center of this storm, remained blissfully unaware of the legal and emotional tornado surrounding him. To him, Michael and Jasmine were simply the parents he loved, the people who had comforted him, taught him, and protected him for 5 years. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A retired nurse, Martha Jenkins, contacted the investigators with a crucial piece of information. She recalled a chaotic night with multiple births, a power fluctuation that had temporarily disrupted the electronic patient monitoring systems, and a series of rushed identification procedures. Meanwhile, the biological parents of the child they had been raising were located. Thomas and Sarah Garrett, a couple from a small town 3 hours from the city, were equally shocked by the revelation. They had a 5-year-old daughter they thought was their own, who was now potentially another family's biological child. The legal team assembled a panel of child psychologists to assess the best possible outcome. The conventional wisdom of returning children to their biological parents seemed cruel and potentially traumatic. These children had formed deep, irreplaceable bonds with the families who had raised them. Judge Hartman scheduled a series of closed-door hearings. The proceedings would be confidential, protecting the children from public scrutiny while determining their future. Each family would undergo psychological evaluation, with the children's emotional well-being as the paramount concern. Michael and Jasmine, once adversaries, now found themselves supporting each other. Their shared experience had forged an unexpected alliance. They spent hours discussing the child they both loved, sharing stories, acknowledging the depth of their connection, regardless of biological ties. The most heart-wrenching moments came during supervised visits between the families. Young Ethan looked confused, torn between the parents he knew and the biological parents he was just meeting. The other child, a little girl named Sophie, displayed similar emotional complexity. As the legal battle continued, the case became more than a simple custody dispute. It transformed into a profound exploration of what truly defines a family. Was it blood? Was it years of love and care? Or was it something more intricate, more nuanced? The media dubbed it the DNA destiny case. Experts in family law, genetics, and child psychology weighed in. Talk shows discussed the ethical implications. Universities began using the case as a complex study in medical ethics and family dynamics. Behind the scenes, Michael and Jasmine made a pact. Regardless of the court's final decision, they would ensure the child's emotional well-being came first. Their love had transcended biological boundaries, creating a bond that defied traditional understanding of parenthood. The final hearing approached. The entire city held its breath, waiting for a resolution that seemed impossible to define. The final court hearing arrived with unprecedented tension. Judge Hartman made a groundbreaking decision: joint custody and shared parental rights for both families. Michael and Jasmine would continue as primary caregivers, while Thomas and Sarah Garrett would have visitation rights and be integrated into the child's life. Psychological experts recommended a gradual transition, allowing Ethan to maintain emotional stability. The biological parents would be introduced as extended family, creating a unique support network that prioritized the child's well-being. The hospital faced significant legal consequences. A $5 million settlement was reached, with funds dedicated to improving infant identification protocols nationwide. Dr. Elena Rodriguez resigned, but was instrumental in developing new safety measures to prevent future mix-ups. Michael and Jasmine's relationship evolved beyond the courtroom. They became co-parents in the truest sense. Their initial conflict transformed into mutual respect and shared love for the child they both cherished. Ethan, now understanding the complexity of his origin, grew up with an extraordinary support system. Two sets of parents, united by an unexpected twist of fate, ensured he never felt torn or abandoned. The case became a landmark legal precedent, challenging traditional notions of parenthood and family. It demonstrated that love transcends biological boundaries and family can be defined by commitment, care, and unconditional support. Years later, Ethan would reflect on his unique journey, a testament to the unpredictable nature of human connection and the power of compassion.